a quorum for the Monday, August 2 meeting of the Park and Recreation Committee. We are meeting today at the Brockmeyer Park Shelter, trying to move around a little bit and see the key facilities and get out in the community a little bit if we can. So the meeting is called to order. We have a quorum. Mr. Killian will be joining us as soon as he can, but we have attendance by Neal, Larson, Watson, and Peckham, so we're good there. For the person taking the minutes' sake. Looks like another good job on the minutes. Everybody's had a chance to look at them, find fault. Anything, suggestions, changes?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Neal, second by Larson. Discussion, none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That settles it, thank you. Okay, go right into discussion and feedback on potential Barker Stewart Island shelter designs. And I don't know.
I printed out some larger ones for you, so because I know the packet was a little bit harder to see. So that's what these printouts are. So there's one here and there's one on each table.
Does everybody remember that building? You certainly do. You do.
The stone,
The stone building, yeah.
Yeah, the stones live next door to us.
Oh, wow.
Back when we first moved here.
Was that here? You remember it, right?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, where CVS is now by James River.
Yeah. Okay. With that said, take it away, man.
Yeah, so when this building was taken down for CVS Pharmacy to go there, I don't know all the history, but it was dismantled, and then a plan was put together to potentially reconstruct it somewhere elsewhere in the city. So it's been in storage for I think 7+ years, and council I did just see approved the extension of the lease to keep it there on a 6-month term, so hopefully we can get it out. So we did this last year. We had money budgeted in our Barker Stewart Island Fund. A portion of that was for the vegetation management and the goats and the tree removal and stuff like that. The other portion of that money allocated was for this design plan to see what we could do and if Barker Stewart Island would be a place for it. There's also ideas of putting this building or replica of it down by 212 River Drive when those buildings come down in that area. So still open for that. But we did put out an RFP to have them look at Barker Stewart Island, have them look at the electrical easement that goes through there, the high water mark being that it's an island on the river, and then just looking at the timbers themselves. So I put a little bit of feedback in the agenda summary about the condition of the timbers. The consultants that we hired did go and do an inventory of the timbers that are out in Rib Falls in storage. And I went out there with them. That's the first time I had seen the timbers and seen where they were stored. And they take up a really big pull shed, so there's a lot of them. But the initial reaction from the consultants was that only about 25 to 30% of the timbers are actually usable to where they would be structurally sound. Now we could use them in any way, but probably not for the actual structure itself.
I think they'd be petrified by now.
Yeah.
No, I'm serious. I mean, like, our house is about 100 years old, and I try to drive a nail into some of that original wood. I mean, it's just stuff has just gone hard.
Yeah, and I don't know that they did any of that, like trying to get it, but there is, if you looked at the condition, we do have some, I didn't bring some pictures, but I can send out some pictures that they took. Just, there's a lot of rot there, there's, some of them are broken off, and so it could be more that we could use, but we can't build the building back with those original timbers. They're going to have to be other timbers. The other idea in the RFP, we did put the options of, can we build the building with the timbers? Can we build a portion of the building with the timbers? Or does it need to be a replica or a mix thereof? Like, that's part of what their job is to determine that. So going through talking with staff and kind of looking at the notes of the history, they came to us originally with the first proposal that's in that packet, where it's just a flat roofed open air shelter. And the feedback or the direction we gave them was that this was going to be an open air shelter because of the island and the visibility of keeping it like a usable shelter like this that we could easily see what's happening because of the public use of that building and kind of the ideas of making it a safe place for everybody to be. Plus we couldn't make it too big because of the floodplain and the overhead lines and the ability that there's no direct traffic out to it, so people could have weddings there, but to get the equipment out there is going to be a little bit challenging as we rent out the shelter. So that's the only, I think, hurdle of having the shelter at Barker Stewart Island is just the convenience of driving equipment and party supplies and everything up to the shelter, and parking, where the parking is going to have to be downtown area. So we have this idea all came about too as a joint effort between the city, the Historical Society, and the Community Foundation, because right now there is no money funded for the construction of this. The idea is to figure out what we want to do, and if it's something that people want to move forward with, if the foundations are on board, if some of the funding would come from that, then we would search for that funding. And I think the idea was to first see the Community Foundation and all the foundations as part of that, to see what they would fund as this historical significance to the city, to work with the Historical Society on any grants that we might be able to apply for to resurrect this or a replica of it, and then lastly would be to come to the city CIP, which would be for 2023, because we're already going through the CIP process for 2022 and we have no idea what the cost at this point is going to be. So the consultant came back to us with initially this first design, which if you page through, it's this flat roofed shelter. It's a very industrial looking, kind of more modern flat shelter. It's this one if you keep paging through, I think it's like page 4 or 5. Yep, that one. The whole underside, all the timbers you see on the underside of this shelter, and there's like some pictures of it up close. All of the timbers on the underside of the shelter are reusing the timbers from the original building. So that's the way they were incorporating the timbers into this shelter, putting some of the modern with the historical. This is a storage closet out there, knowing that being that it's more remote, we may need to keep some equipment out there so we don't have to carry it on each time. And then this big picture is just an idea they had as like a historical photo of the original building. That's how they were tying it in. When Brad Lenz from City Planning and I looked at this, I mean, it looks nice and everything, but when I think of the Historical Society looking at this, I could just hear like maybe this is not what they're looking for, and we asked them to go back and have another design that more replicated the shelter, the building itself.
Yeah.
So that's the design too. That's here today, and it does have the clear story, so that's this building you page through. It's got more of the gable roof, or it's more of like a hip roof with the clear story that much more replicates the original building.
I think that we could make it into our warehouse.
So that's it.
Okay.
Yep.
Right there?
Nope, that's the more modern shelter,
Keep
so
going.
keep paging.
Go further back, huh?
Yep.
Here we go. That one?
So, nope, page one more. Now you're going to get to the next set of photos. One more page. That's it, but you want to see what it looks like, so the next page. Oh, one more page.
Yeah, one more.
They give lots of views. Right there.
Okay.
There you go.
So that one, when you look at it, the existing timbers from the original building are all of these timbers on the ends. So there's, I think at the very last page of your packet is a picture, or second to last page, is a picture of the end of the building. So all of these timbers that make up this hip roof and going down are the existing timbers.
Yep.
And then it incorporates some of the more modern features or more maintenance-free features of a building to help with ease of maintenance and stuff too. So I guess so I'm just asking your feedback today, not voting on it yet because I want to have a chance to also get this in front of the Community Foundation and the Historical Society as they were kind of ideas, and the foundation is who helped pay for that storage initially of those timbers with this idea. So I wanted to be able to let them know what your initial thoughts were.
I like that one.
Yeah, you like that one?
I'll do it. That's more, I don't know, it's just nicer than that, just that
The
flat
flat
roof.
roof?
Yeah.
I think it almost has to have that clear story element.
It's almost
otherwise-
got a, a little touch of class to it. The other one is just too plain Jane.
Yeah.
And that's the feedback I want. And also, before we take it to the Community Foundation and Historical Society, if there's anything in these designs that you really don't like or you really do like that we can take back to the consultant before we would let the other groups see it, that's feedback I would like to hear also.
Yeah. I would like everybody to share, but my first thought was, with the trouble we have with homeless occupying the gazebo a little bit to the south of that, I can just see this being a first-class headache. It would have to be the terrain and the vegetation would have to be drastically changed so that it would be open so that somebody with a big honking flashlight or something could look over there. Otherwise, you're going to have police officers over there every hour on the hour to shoot people out of there, or decide that, okay, we're going to let homeless people sleep there, but I don't think we want that.
No, one thing we are going to incorporate into the plan, which I should have mentioned, is some lighting. So it'll be something that will have either some solar lights on, but it will be lit in the evening, so they'll be able to see it.
Security cameras?
We could do that too. So right now, the police are enforcing the park hours of the gazebo even,
Yeah.
because you technically are supposed to be in the park after 11 p.m. So they have been doing more enforcement, and that's up to our police to do the enforcement of making sure that nobody's in the park, no matter what they're doing, after 11.
I haven't been to this park, pardon me. You have to walk across some water, a bridge or something to get to it then? Because, and then another thing too is, when I first took this position, I took a tour of the police department, and they have a NCIS room, I call it, as well. They have all the cameras, and they have a camera on that gazebo 24/7.
They do have a camera, yes. Yep.
Yeah.
The thing about, unfortunately, the gazebo during the daylight hours is like, an open bar, like every day that it's nice out, and even some days when it's not so nice out. I mean, it has been claimed. And what's to say that this wouldn't be the same, because it's out of the way, it's not like on a main thoroughfare, there's that kind of sense of anonymity, you're kind of away, and I just see like, oh, this is great, they got tables and everything, and just, and there you go, it's a kegger every day, without the kegs, but, without, I just don't, I think that we're asking for just another gathering spot like that. I almost wonder, and this has nothing to do with the building, but if, we shouldn't be looking at, getting a lot of clearing out there like we've been doing with the goats and whatnot, and taking away a lot of the opportunity for people to, take dirt naps in the bushes or whatever. But to have like some individual little islands for people, to go congregate by themselves in small groups away from each other rather than having a central pavilion where you go there and you're like, oh well, that's taken over, I guess we can't go there, I don't want to go there, and it's essentially, it's not a public amenity anymore, But I almost see like, a bunch of small, maybe covered, no bigger than this, but 6 of them or 10 of them, dotted around the island where, sure, maybe that one over there is a beer party, but this one here is, 40 yards away, and I can have my family here and not worry about it and stuff. So that's, my initial reaction is, wouldn't that be great?
Yeah.
But it probably won't be great.
It definitely would have to be enforced right away to say this is just not appropriate
Well,
here.
enforcing during the day is the problem, because there's nothing, you can't enforce anything during the day unless, you really start drawing a line on like public intoxication, stuff
Right.
like that.
It would have to be probably something similar to the 400 block, like alcohol until after 4.
Mhm.
Or we could just say on this particular shelter, and no alcohol except by permit, which would be rentals. You know, if you rent it for a family picnic or
Sure,
you could do that.
then, okay. Yeah, I guess that'd be a way to try to enforce something.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one option. I mean, I like your option too of multiple smaller shelters, which is kind of a different vision.
Mhm.
How big is the design to footprint?
It is, oh, I have it right here actually, it's in here. So option B, which is the one with the clear story, is 30 by 70. It's pretty good size shelter. And the other one is 24 by 80. Now any of that can be shrunk or changed. The original shelter was even larger than that. I think it was, I probably lie here, but I think it was like 36 by 90 or 40 by 90. It's a big building.
It's about as wide as this, isn't it? From edge to edge. And then,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yep, it's long.
Ms. Watson? Thoughts?
I sort of like the idea that Tom mentioned about the smaller things, and could it maybe be centered around like a replica of this building using the timbers or something like that to get that historic feel?
Like each of the small buildings have this kind of look to it? Is that what you're saying?
No, just have a replica on the island, so there's like a showpiece, and then have the smaller little gathering spaces around it.
Like make this bigger shelter a little bit smaller, but have it look like it, and then have a couple of smaller ones throughout the island, is what you're saying? Hey, Tom.
down in Milwaukee, Esther Brook Park, which is on the Milwaukee River,
Okay.
they have a beer garden,
Anywhere you want to sit.
which is essentially kind of like what we're sitting on right now, and a couple of attached tents, and there's a vendor there that, sells beer. People go there, they bring their families, they bring their dogs, they sit down and have a beer, a pretzel, that kind of thing. It is immensely popular. And you can't go walking in there with your, 12-pack of Milwaukee's best and sit down. I mean, it is an establishment. I mean, just like we have the ice cream place on the Riverwalk.
Yep.
Why wouldn't we maybe look at having a beer truck, doing a beer garden, fair weather beer garden down there. And that way we could really offer a public amenity, where people can get together in a crowd and not feel weird about it. And you need to have a lot more control about, people interloping and taking advantage. And it would just be so easy, just to get a beer truck over there and something to warm up some pretzels with, and boom, you're done,
That's an idea, put a vendor out there to keep the homeless away.
Yeah.
Just to jump in for the sake of the minutes, Alder Killian has joined us at 10 to 5, so we're got a full vote. We're talking about the different options that were presented in the packet for building, and we're thinking we don't like the, she's just kind of gathering
Feedback.
informal opinion. We're not going to pick one today. But we weren't nuts about the more modern one. We're looking at the one with the clear story element in it.
The more replica of the building, the original building.
And I would say one of the simplest things I saw was off the foot of that footbridge. You draw a line from that to the building, you're going to need a path there. You're not going to, people aren't going to walk
Yeah.
straight west and then hook back and then hook around again.
Oh.
So the path was very poorly
So you
conceived.
need a direct path.
Yeah.
Ms. Polly, if this comes to fruitation and stuff, do we have the staff on hand to take on the additional maintenance and care of this facility, or would we have to add extra staff?
Well,
To
that would be
keep the grass
You've got
mowed?
whether we pony up for that additional staff, and then we're going to be in the hole again.
right, that would be the discussion. I mean, right now, anything we add, we don't really have the staff to do.
Okay,
Um,
staff or the funds?
right,
Yeah.
yeah, so we would probably include that in the budget estimate, and put the whole package together. If this is what the building itself will cost to build it, and then this is what it costs to maintain it. And that would be a city decision of whether you would take that on or not.
So we don't have the material to build a full building, we don't have the money to build a partial building, and we don't have the money or staff to operate it.
Well, the money to build the building, I guess at this point, we know this wasn't budgeted for. And the idea was to try to see what, because these timbers, we need to get these timbers out of Mr. Johnson's shed.
Yeah.
You know, he's given away a really, pretty much a huge pole shed to the city for 7 years now. And so if we can figure out what we're gonna do with them, or if we just decide, you know, knowing now that only 30% are usable, even to put within a building, do we even use them at all? Is it even a thing that the city wants to continue to pursue? You know, is the question. And then I think once we decide what we want to do out here, whether it's one building, a smaller building, a couple smaller buildings, whatever it might be, then we get the cost estimate, and then we decide, we work with, if it's, the reason now why it's kind of this long process is because of the fact of the historical significance and the, I think, long-term plan of those who took the building down with the idea to rebuild it and bringing that history, keeping that history in the area. But if that's not something to pursue, then we don't.
What percentage, I mean, I guess this is kind of a dumb question too, but how far is 30% of the pillars gonna, or the wood gonna go in a building like this too?
Well, that's what they have incorporated in there right now. So anything you see that's kind of that gray on that design,
They're
that's
saying they
existing
can do that
structure.
with what they
Yeah,
have.
that's, okay, so anything that's not gray
Is new
is new.
material.
But you could also use, like, you know, even some of the old wood is not really as structurally sound to be a low bearing or whatever, which you could use it in aesthetic ways, framing something or building benches with, you know, things like that. You know, if it's in a covered area and it's like, you know, it's no great shakes if somebody, like, you know, carves their initials in it, but you know, you can have a little plaque saying, you know, original wood from, you know, 18 whatever, you know,
Yep.
from the original sawmill or whatever they call it.
Am I the only one who thought that this building was going to be reassembled by the kayak course?
No, that's another
That was
option. That was
something
an
that was
option.
thrown around, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
There
what
were-
I thought, and then all of a sudden it's out here.
Yeah.
And I go, oh, okay.
Yeah.
From the meetings that I was in
That
with
might be
city
better.
planning and foundation, I think they wanted to see if it could go here first, and then the idea was a replica down on the South River front. But I think it looks like we're gonna do a replica no matter what.
Yeah.
So if it's better fitted at South River front, then
But
that's the recommendation you can make.
down in the south, I mean, wouldn't that be more of like a enclosed, you know, four-season building?
I think there was a couple options. One was enclosed and being more of like the farmer's market, using it for that. I think there was also the idea of an open air shelter. So whenever that gets designed, I think that could be the feedback from the committee.
Any thoughts, Alder Killian?
No, I'm just getting up to speed here, so
Okay.
may have some soon, but not current.
Okay. Did you get enough feedback?
Well, what I'm hearing, so I think what I'm hearing is that where there's some hesitation from the committee of even putting the shelter out on the island because of just the use of the
Well,
island and the
unattended,
security.
yeah.
Unattended, yeah.
But
I'll word it better.
restricted, you know,
Homeless people.
or with vending, you know, there are probably ways we can make that.
Yep.
I do think that the beer garden aspect makes it quite viable.
And that could be something that we could pursue separately, see if we've got somebody even interested, and then what kind of shelter we might need. And it,
I do think that if it were to be placed out there, the rules, it would have to have a separate set of rules.
yeah. Oh,
It
yeah,
can't be the same rules as at the gazebo.
right.
Yeah.
And I know, on a side note, that discussion will be coming forth to the public health and safety at some point from the police department because of, I just met with them last week about just the ongoing issues down at the gazebo, but if we take it away, where else do people go during the day? You know, right now our park ordinances allow alcohol in park spaces, except for the 400 block. That's the only one that's restricted. So it's a discussion for another time, but it's a discussion that the police department do want to have with the council. And then there's also groups that are bringing food down to them, bringing blankets, leaving it them, making it very easy for people to feel comfortable and just stay there, you know, and not seek the help that they need elsewhere. So.
Just one more thing to throw at the beer garden idea is, you know, 'cause it appears to me like at Esther Park, you know, they have their own beer pitchers and their own beer cups and whatnot, so people aren't, you know, bringing tons of bottles and cans and plastic, you know, cups and throwing them in the trash or throwing them on the ground and things like that. And, you know, this is kind of a sensitive area right on the river, surrounded by the river, and we want to be able to control littering and, you know, pollution as much as possible out there. And this is a way to kind of, you know, discourage people trucking in stuff because, like I said, it's a facility, you know, that vends, so you can't bring your stuff to it.
Right.
It's just sit down and bring out a picnic.
Yeah.
You know, now then perhaps if you had, like I said, you know, smaller little islands of like picnic, you know, spaces, sure, somebody could go there, but you're talking about this pavilion, if you will, you know, just for the sake of a lot of concerns.
I think it's a relatively small school of thought, but there is a school of thought among people who are concerned about the homeless in the community, is that they have the idea that maybe the city should find a place for them that's not in the public eye like the gazebo is. But if we do that, you know, are they going to adopt it and use it? What kind of, are we going to have porta potties there? What kind of problems are we going to get if they're out of sight? Are there going to be problems? There have already been at least one stabbing down there this summer. So would that be a safe and wise thing to do? So there are lots of theories floating around out there, but
More to come on that.
more to come. Yeah.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
Just on this topic, since it seems to intersect with the specific topic of the shelters here, I know that there seems to be a very significant intersection between homelessness and alcoholism in town, and I had talked with the chief and deputy chief at one time about this, and I think this is particularly relevant to parks because if someone who maybe fits those two criteria are looking for a place, a public spot where they can go or to have a drink, that may be one of the few available. So I had floated the notion of a wet shelter, which we do not have in town because apparently based on case studies in other municipalities, that was one of the few ways to deal with that intersection of homelessness and alcoholism. But perhaps, you know, down the road, since it does overlap with parks, we could talk about that more.
I think that might be coming out of the homelessness task force, but I'm not sure. Okay?
Yep.
Got that one?
Okay.
You want to have, where do you want to
Well, I think,
order?
well, I'll just give quick updates, then he's gonna talk to us about the playground, because I think we have some new members of the committee that weren't around during the whole process, and then we'll go out and take a walk of it, 'cause
So do you want to do your update first?
Yeah.
We'll walk?
yeah, I'll do them really quick. So just
Okay.
to finalize this shelter thing, I think what I'll do, I'll go back and I'll have a good conversation with Brad Lenz and planning. And I think maybe it might be a good idea if we take the same discussion about whether or not the shelter is something we want to move to the planning committee, maybe, and get. Because I think, to me, it's a really good
Bounce it around the
discussion from the
community.
council, is if we have pretty strong feeling that this necessarily isn't the best use of the island, and we've got other ideas of how to better utilize the island, like, I see that kind of being a separate discussion of having a master plan for the island, aside from the shelter, and whatever that includes, whether it includes little shelters or vendor type thing, or more programming and more different landscaping, more natural area, whatever, I think that should come out of the Parks Committee. But if we talk with the Historical Society and everybody feels it's better suited, if this is the option to reuse that timber, then maybe it doesn't have to be in a park and it could be anywhere else in the city. Or if everybody hears that we can only use 25 to 30%, then we just forget the idea of rebuilding it, and we can maybe reutilize the timber in other ways and keep the good part out. We can get it out of Mr. Johnson's garage, keep the good stuff, get rid of the bad stuff, and then store that somewhere more locally where we could use it down the road in other development. Is that
Cool.
okay?
Yeah, and I do think, like the master plan for the island, what do we want that to look like? Do we want the upstream tip of it to be park-like? And do we want the rest of it to be overgrown and natural? Or what do we want? So,
Yep.
Is that island ever fully underwater?
Well, the northernmost tip of it is pretty swampy.
Yes,
right?
and the southern. Yep, north and south
you and I
get
can
really
go for
wet.
a walk there one day.
Okay.
I have heard the main
That'd be
area where this loop, where the goats were, and the loop trail, I have heard that it has not been underwater in the recollection of anybody in the Parks Department, and I guess we go back as long as 30 years.
Okay.
So,
Pretty close, but not there.
so.
Okay.
Okay, so other updates we have, if you were around this last week, we had a pretty significant storm go through on the 28th. What was that, Wednesday night?
Here we are.
We were very fortunate actually in the city with not a lot of debris and down trees. We did take one tree off
Did
of
we
our
have
house.
more like the one right before it, like the week before?
Yes, we had more trees down the week before. Marathon Park took the biggest hit. We lost probably about 40 trees. One car got smushed, but nobody got hurt, thank goodness. So we're still cleaning up that, and that's where most of our staff has been now since last week, Wednesday. Goats left on Thursday morning. They survived the storm Wednesday night. They were all good. We had a lot of people call the mayor asking how they were, but
So how effective were they in mitigating some of those species out there?
Yeah.
yep, I'm gonna bring back in September a better report with some before and after pictures so we can see it. I wasn't able to throw that together for the agenda because they just left on Thursday. But the pictures I've seen in talking with the farmers, they did a significant amount of work out there and did a lot of removal. What we did learn is that because we had cut everything down last fall and cut it really short, we brought them out when we knew the growth was high enough, but there was still a lot that wasn't very high, and they don't like the little stuff. They like the big stuff. They like to climb. So they would probably be more effective if we let everything grow a little bit longer and had it be much taller, and then you'd see much more.
Like I saw one of them that climbed a tree.
Yeah, yeah.
It was pretty far up a tree to get the good stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and they really liked the honeysuckle first, and then they came back around to the buckthorn. But you could tell when they were getting antsy and they didn't want to eat any more of that stuff out there because they either didn't like the height of it or whatever. Then they started going after our good stuff out there that we had fenced, and they didn't get much of it. One shrub got eaten.
So they did prefer the honeysuckle, which is invasive?
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. So they did it. From the pictures I've seen, there is a significant difference from what it was to what it is. So I think that it was very successful, but in learning it, we probably could have been a little bit more successful had we maybe let things grow a little bit more and then brought them in.
I think it'd be a nice thing in the future seasons to partition the park for more localized grazing.
Yeah.
And then having people be able to come in and walk around and see the goats in action, but rather than from a distance, but
Yep.
kind of get goats and people in the park at the same time.
So like section off the area they're eating, but have the other area available. And
Yeah.
I thought it was, for that first time, I thought it was pretty smart to, do it the way he did. And I thought it was very well handled.
we did get feedback the first couple of days because they would eat in the morning and then they eat in the evening. So people came out during the day and they were all laying in the tall grass and couldn't see
Where are
them.
the damn birds?
Right, where are they? What are they doing? So I will have some pictures to show before and after so we can have
Very
a
good.
better idea of,
See if they were as advertised, huh?
yes.
Well, I think if they had a certain value beyond, deforesting the bad stuff, it's a branding thing.
I think the price tag was reasonable.
It's a good story.
You can still go on Etsy and get your goat t-shirts that.
Yeah. I have not seen that.
Greatest of all towns.
Greatest of all towns, yeah. I'll send it out. I'll send it. I should have worn my shirt today. Had to get one. Katie got one. But, all right, bike share. We're still working on the contract with Tandem Mobility. I haven't been involved with it. It's been Brad Lenz and the city attorney, but as soon as we get that, then it's about a month before they're deployed. So I'm not really in charge of it. I'm just reporting on it, but I will follow up on it to give everybody a better update. Swimming pools, we have 2 of them closing this week and Kaiser closing next week. Right now we do have Memorial Park down with that storm that came through on Saturday. We had 2 cells of storm come through. The first one knocked the power out in the southeast side neighborhood. I don't know if you had power or not, but there was houses without power and the pool was down. In that surge, it blew all 4 of our main circuits. So all we have at the pool right now is 120 volt power back, which is not enough to run the pumps. So we have overnighted these circuit breaker things that should be here tomorrow morning. Hope to get it up and running for the rest of this season, which is just a week, but it's supposed to have the doggone pool party on Sunday where you can bring your dog.
At Memorial?
At Memorial, yep. And then we'll have an end of the season report for you in September on attendance this year and how the 1 day per week per pool closing went and how our swimming lessons numbers were. So we'll have that in September.
And I think we might see a proposal next year for 6-day-a-week pool operation to accommodate the swimming lessons again.
It went very well this year, so
Yeah.
we'll do an assessment and we'll bring
There's
it
real
back.
value for those swimming lessons, so.
Yep, and we didn't really hear, I didn't have any complaints of the pools being
I had
down 1 day a
0.
week.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that we kept it the same day every week, people just knew
Yeah.
Memorial was closed Monday.
Doing the best you can.
Yeah. Playgrounds, just doing a lot of work on playgrounds, Schofield Park and Pleasant View. We're still waiting for DPW to pave the trails. They've been really busy too, so we're just trying to get that. That's all that's left there. Forest Park path is all that's left there as well. But the playgrounds are open and playable. 3M Park, have you seen it?
I have not.
Really? It's going to be amazing.
Is it done? I'll go down
It's
there.
not done yet, but it's almost done. It's about half done, and then we got to work on the curbing and the surfacing. But it's a very unique playground. It's called a Hedra Playground by Landscape Structures, and it's the only one that they've put in Wisconsin so far.
What does that mean?
Is it all the building?
Is it the
Have you
theme?
seen it yet?
or-
It's
I
like a
saw
big,
them working on it,
it's
but I haven't
hexagon
seen it.
components. So the Hedra part is there's 3 or 4 hexagon play structures. It's like a big molecule,
Oh,
like from
cool.
science that you use, and then the kids can weave in and out of each hexagon, and it's a lot of belts and ropes that they can
Oh, my.
climb on.
I
And
love it.
it looks pretty simple from the outside, but once you climb through it, there's a lot that they can do. We were on one in Minnesota where we saw it the first time,
Oh,
and it's pretty cool.
cool.
Yeah.
Might we be able to get some information on the specific type of playground they're putting up, like you mentioned?
Sure. Yeah, I can send pictures. I'll
Yes.
send you like what
I
we
think the
ordered.
neighborhoods will be very excited about
Oh,
this.
yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah. I can do that. I'm still working on ADA and then still working on our regular, day-to-day stuff when we get it. Fairs in town, so we've been busy with that starting tomorrow. And then I just wanted to remind you, even though these are county things, but they're for everybody, is that we have partnered with the Historical Society to highlight the 100 years of county parks. So they now have an exhibit. We're going to post this around town. They now have an exhibit that's open to the public of Marathon County parks in the past 100 years. We are working with them to put a scavenger hunt together. That's going to be like a scorecard that you can take, and you have to go to, I think, 5 or 6 county parks of the 10 that we have on there. Find the clue that we're putting on, bring it back to the Historical Society for a prize, and then that will get people into the exhibit as well. The commission, we can always meet there sometime too. Our park commission will be meeting there in September, and then going through it after their meeting. So
We might just invite the park committee to that.
yeah, we could. And then,
Talk to the chairman.
and then you're gonna start to see these around. This is our band that we're having come for our 100th anniversary party on the 28th. They're called Hello Weekend. This lady is amazing. I saw her at Granite Peak for our New Year's event that was family friendly. My kids just loved it. They had so much fun. She can sing anything. I keep saying she can sing anything from Axl Rose to like Britney Spears. She's super good. But we'll put on here our 100th anniversary event that we're having at Marathon Park, which is to celebrate. It's 100 plus 1 because we were supposed to have it last year, and it's got all kinds of fun family activities, touch a truck, obstacle course, you can climb a tree, you can ride in a bucket truck, you can play family games that we'll have going on. We're going to have a smaller band during the afternoon that does more folk music, and then this band is in the evening, and then fireworks to follow. And hopefully we're getting the same show that the fair has tomorrow, and hopefully the fair's tomorrow night show is the same as it was 2 years ago, because it was amazing and that's what I paid for, so that's what hopefully we're getting. So I'm going to go watch them tomorrow night and make sure that it's good. So that's what I got for this.
Cool. And we don't have a Riverside Park testing update.
Nope.
Nothing from DPW. Anybody with any agenda items that they know that they want on next time? Very good, as
Oh,
always.
That's what, wait, the next one, sorry, I forgot about that. We do need to look at the calendars and figure out our September meeting date because it's Labor Day. Our next meeting is scheduled for Labor Day. So we could meet, we could do the historical, well, I don't know if everybody's available during the day, but we could do a joint park commission, city committee meeting the next day.
What is that?
We have to have time
That would
for
be
business
the-
from both, so.
They meet at 10:30 in the morning on Tuesdays.
Might be better if the park commission met and just invited
Invited the park committee.
committee. and-
I can't be there at 10:30.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
So then looking at our August agenda or dates, sorry, September dates. So the 6th would be our regular scheduled meeting, that is Labor Day. We could meet, I don't have the city calendar in front of me, but the 13th is the next Monday. We could just push it back a week. And I think there might be a public health and safety that we might have to push, like last
I
month.
guess it's,
That's not the same day as
Oh,
the
it's not.
human resources, is it?
I don't know.
One of, like last month, we pushed it back a week and then we just had to meet at 5:15 because there was another meeting scheduled in there. I have a feeling it's the same thing.
Yeah, because I think that, I might be wrong, but I think the HR meeting is the following Monday. But I,
And they usually meet at 4:30.
4:30, 4:15-ish, something like that.
So should we tentatively set it for the 13th, just meet after whatever meetings in the council chambers? So it might be like a 5:15, 5:30 meeting?
We could do that. Check with Becky to see if,
Well, I'll look at the calendar of the,
Okay. You learn anything, Mr. Neal?
All right, it only goes to the end of August on the calendar
Oh,
on the
okay.
website.
Okay, unless somebody knows better, we're gonna tentatively shoot for September 13th, and the hour may have to be adjusted. Okay, going to adjourn the meeting officially, but Mr. Porter is here, and will give us a history of JoJo's Jungle, and be able to walk around a little bit, and those who are interested can then leave and convoy over to the potential new dog park that is high in the sky at this point.
oh, by the Menards place over there?
Yeah, south of Menards.
How is that going? Are we dismissed yet? I'll second that.
we need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make the motion to adjourn then.
Aye.
Motion to adjourn,
Second, yes.
Larson, second, Killian. All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Aye.
It's unanimous. We are adjourned.